Halls 12 to 15. In halls 12 to 15, the traditional culture of the Bessarabian space in the 19th, early 20th century is reflected. The exhibition is organized according to the zonal principle and aims to demonstrate the relationship between man and nature. The universe of culture is highlighted, the second nature created by man. The mural paintings represent the natural environment, relief, human settlements, peasant households, rural architecture, which as a whole reflects the specifics of the natural and occupational setting. Authentic pieces that characterize the specifics of ethnic heritage, basic and auxiliary occupations, crafts, households, occupations are exhibited on the corridors. This is complemented by the photographs, maps, small plastic and books in the shop windows. Rural culture is evoked on the perimeter of the halls and in the showcases of the rotonda, urban and church culture, literature, musical and theatrical art. In Hall 12, the formation of the Republic of Moldova is briefly presented. The mural reflects the hunting rituals of the wild bison, which is the basis of the historical legend about the creation of Moldovan state. The central place on the podium is occupied by the dowry chest and the Bible, which are displayed as symbols of material and spiritual culture. The idea of the exhibition area is the following. The land, nature, richness, faith, traditions must be preserved with sanctity and passed on to future generations. The materials related to Old Orhei are of special interest. One of the great medieval Moldovan cities, whose ruins were discovered on the ring bank of the Reut River near the village of Trebujeni. The actual ethnographic exhibition begins with the bust of Dimitrie Cantemir, who, in his work Description of Moldova, reports extensive information about nature, occupations, customs, and local customs. For the northern area, the basic occupations were herding and agriculture. The mythical hero, the shepherd, is painted on the painting. The fight with demonic creatures, with the personified forces of nature, the heritage of thinking and feeling of the shepherds we find in the pastoral ballads and hymns. The Miorița myth depicts man's cosmic situation, man's inner strength and his relationship with nature. Also here we find some elements from Romanian mythology, such as the boar, an animal considered sacred by the Dacians, and the symbol of power of unleashed nature. The sacred fire, as a reminiscence of the solar cult. On the eve of the major holidays in the popular calendar, the fire was extinguished and rekindled as a sign of the renewal of its sacred power. Lighting the candles at Christmas, Epiphany, Easter, St. George, St. Demetrius has been preserved till today as a tradition. Also, the fire is lit at the three great events in human life: birth, wedding, funeral. The pastoral inventory is displayed on the podium also. Buckets, milk measuring cups, vessels for processing milk, spoons, butter, corns. In the northern area, animal husbandry has a local character. Breeding of sheep, pigs, cattle, and horses was practiced. Sheep were bred for particularly valuable products as milk, cheese, and wool. The big-horn cattle were for the exploitation of products as well as for traction needs. In the 19th century, horse fairs were held in the north of Bessarabia, which were visited mainly by merchants from Poland, Galicia, and Russia. As means of land transport were widespread the charts, the sled, the carriage, and on water the boat, the rafts, and the walking bridges. The second occupation was agriculture. The soil was worked with traditional means. Agricultural tools are displayed on the podium: wooden plug, wooden harrow, wooden forks, scythes, threshing stone, plowshare. Going out to plow or starting the plow was highlighted by a festive ceremony and was practiced on March 9, the day when we celebrate the 40 saints. The divinization of the land by the plowmen was manifested through the various magical actions during the ceremony. This was the divinization process. On the painting, we see the plowman with bread in his hand as a symbol of abundant life, and some sequence from the reaping ritual, a ritual which, by the way, like the other customs related to cultivation of the land, explains the veneration of the land, the desire and hope of the peasant to have abundance in fruits, but also a caring attitude for earth in general. A special place in the exhibition is occupied by the tools for processing cereal crops: the grinder, the sieve, the vessel for measuring grain. One of the most important grains is wheat. In the shop window, one can see exhibited the engraving by the painter Vatamanice seeding ritual. Both this ritual as well as the other traditions focused on wheat, various superstitions, weather forecasts make us better understand the relationship between wheat, bread, and spiritual life. Among the household occupation are shown the processing of textile fibers and weaving. Hemp and flax were the main plant fibers used to make fabrics, as well was used wool. On the podium, in the showcases, the tools used in the processing of the fibers are displayed: the combs, the forks, the spindlers, the spools. Until recently, spinning and weaving were occupations that involved all women in the villages. In the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century, more than 60 varieties of home textiles were produced. Fabrics for clothing, for decoration, for home use and ceremonial activities are displayed in this area. Plowing or agriculture, as well as the miracle offered by nature, generated numerous and imposing rites and customs, among the function of which the magical ritual of invoking a good fruit harvest stands out. In the ritual days, we find the oldest images of working the land, the most spectacular customs, and the most often practiced are the winter customs: caroling, ploughing, showing, mask dances, folk theater, all manifestations of a special folklore richness. The structural elements of the plough are the bell, the whip, children's plug, the stick for the rolled bread, the symbol of the bull, and the rattle. Also, he represented the masks that occupy an important place in winter holidays tradition. The goat has the magical function of ensuring the harvest of vegetation, the grain, and its play reproduces the revival of nature. The horse symbolizes fertility. Anthropomorphic masks originated from primitive people, believing that the masked man could contact higher forces to ensure an abundant life. The continuation of the exhibition presents the central zone. The rugged relief and forests determined the basic occupation of the region's inhabitants. Viticulture and fruit growing are the main occupations of the rural population. Viticulture, one of the oldest branches of agriculture, flourished in medieval Moldova. Wine production was exported to Poland, Ukraine, Moscow, different other regions. Towards the end of 19th century, in the Kodri area, viticulture was the main source of livelihood. But phylloxera insect caused great losses in the fields. Due to that, a process of restoring the wine began, with many European varieties being introduced in the vine. Works related to the restoration of the vineyards as well as molds of the local non-European grapes and varieties are exhibited in showcases. The viticulture tools are displayed on the podium. The wine press for squeezing the grapes for the juice, various wine vessels, panels, brooms. Fruit growing has long tradition in our area. It starts with the planting of forest trees in the gardens near the house. In specific conditions, resistant native trees were formed: apple trees, brushwood, cherries, sour cherries, plums, walnuts. The fruits were of great importance in the diet, being eaten fresh and dried. The products obtained by processing them were also widespread: jam, kiselica, which is a porridge made of boiled fruits, mainly plums; braga, which is a sour drink. On the podium and in the showcase, the fruit growers' tool and molds of local and European fruits are displayed. Wood processing, determined in the natural environment, was a specific occupation in the Kodri area. Wood, as a building material, was easily procured and processed. It was used to heat homes, prepare food, make furniture, build houses. The architecture of wooden villages was distinguished by the carving of wood. Particularly beautiful were the wooden gates, the gable of the houses, the pillars, the doors, and the windows, worked by skilled craftsmen. A gate and the pillar of the house are represented on the painting that you can see here. On the podium are presented tools for carpentry, measuring and finishing wooden vessels, as well as household objects made of wood: spoons, ladders, dishes, spindlers, forks, knitting needles, stickers, etc. Some beekeeping and hunting objects are also presented here. In the past, hunting, due to the rich fauna, was an important occupation. Wild boar, bear, deer, lynx, marten, wolf, bustard, mountain hen, deer, rabbit were hunted. Next to the podium, a peasant dueling is organized. It is considered one of the most eloquent expressions of a peasant way of life. The interior represents the room called locally pantry, from the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. Here, in the peasant's house, certain jobs were carried out. Knowledge about life was passed on to the younger generation. Ethical and moral norms were taught. One of the basic elements of the home was the fireplace, as a source of heat and light, but also as a place of spiritual connection for family members, be it small or large. Next follows the presentation of the same area. On the painting one can see cave hermitages dug in the steep rocks of Nestor and Reut rivers. Hermitages appeared in as early as 13th century and served as a shelter for monks, hermits, and peasants hiding from enemy hordes attacking them. On the podium there are stone objects and tools, a craft with long traditions, the development of which was linked to the processing of agro-food products and the construction of houses and fortresses. The most important were the masons and stone carvers. On the painting one can see myths of the creative man, personified by the craftsman, which is called in our tradition manole. A special place is occupied by the rural architecture of Orhei area. The natural environment, the presence of Sarmatian calcareous deposits have determined the appearance and development of a unique architecture in this region. Among the popular crafts practiced in Moldova between Nestor and Prut rivers, pottery enjoyed a special prestige, whose millennial traditions are confirmed by numerous archaeological discoveries. Clay pots were among the most important household items, as they served to prepare food and preserve food supplies. 4 pottery centers were known where red and black pottery was made. On the podium are exhibited the pottery's well, vessels of various shapes and names, jars, jugs, pots, plates, cups, straws, etc. In the same hall, the southern area of Bessarabia from the end of 19th, beginning of 20th century is presented. During this period, following the population of the south of Bessarabia with settlers from European countries, the exploitation of the immense steppes took place. The use of improved agricultural tools fostered a boom in the development of agriculture. The central place on the podium is occupied by the agricultural inventory, cereal seeds also, wheat, rye, sweet potatoes, etc. In the showcase there are photos, drawings, diplomas that complete this theme. The natural conditions in the southern area favored the development of sheep farming. Sheep wool brought income to the land, being exported far abroad. The development of sheep farming contributed to the processing of skins as a raw material for making shoes, clothing, and other household items. Several categories of craftsmen were known: tanners, leather workers, cobblers, leather strappers, hammer makers. Leather goods and leather working tools are presented in this area. The shepherd's inventory is also displayed here, and a shepherd costume is shown behind the glass. Drought is a characteristic phenomenon for the southern area of our country. Various magical actions were practiced to invoke rain. Pagan custom, paparuda, kaloyan, pupusha, etc., have reached the present days. The kaloyan mold, made in the Vulcanești district, is exhibited in the showcase. Kaloyan is an ancient symbolic magical ritual from the agrarian cycle of spring intended to protect crops and invoke rain. The south of Bessarabia in the 19th century, first decades of the 20th century, had access to the Black Sea. The Dnester, Prut, and Danube rivers had a rich fish fauna, a fact that favored the development of fishing, fish constituting a very important food product, especially during fasting period when the consumption of meat and fats was forbidden. Fishing tools are displayed on the podium: net, bag, host, fishing line, basket, and other. The rotonda in the center of the hall has several showcases, in which exhibitions on various themes are systemized. The first showcase is devoted to internal and external trade, which played an important role in the economy of Bessarabia. Fairs were held in big cities, country towns, and different localities. Large horned cattle, horses, sheep, swine, grain, fruit, grapes, wool, pots, wood, and leather goods, various domestic and imported goods were sold there. Bessarabia exported cattle and agricultural products to countries like Poland, Austria, Russia, Romania. In the showcase one can see a shop corner from the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. Vintage units of measurement are on display. The next exhibition complex is represented by literature, musical and theatrical art. Portraits of chroniclers and writers, representatives of different stages of development of the Romanian language and literature, are also on display. The book of Dimitrie Cantemir, Antioch Cantemir, Vasile Alexandri, Costache Negruțe, Mihai Cogălnicianu are of great interest. A special place in the showcase is occupied by materials related to music. Here we find the photos of great violinists Barbu Lăutaru, Marian, and Perja, considered to be the predecessors of professional music, brilliantly represented by Porumbescu, Muzicescu, Ionescu. The materials of the famous fiddler Costache Parno, violin, music book, are exhibited, as well as the musical instruments that were part of the fiddler from the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th. Next, the town culture is presented, which gained a wide development in the second part of the 19th century. Various objects representing the way of life of the town people are exhibited: watches, gramophones, weapons, women's costumes, books. Also here are the photos of important individuals who contributed to the development of Bessarabian culture. Bănulescu-Bodoni, Stuart, Soap. Under the leadership of Bishop Bănulescu-Bodoni in 1814, the Diocesan Printing House was founded where the church books were printed. We mention the liturgy from 1815, which has bibliographic value, being one of the first books in Romanian printed in Chișinău. This book is one of the few with the preface written by the Bishop Bănulescu-Bodoni. The first Moldovan Bible printed in Petersburg in 1819, based on a previous version of the Romanian Bible, which was printed in Blaj 1795, is also here on display. Next, the interior of the townhouse is organized. The coats of arms of the largest city in Bessarabia, photographs, drawing, postcards, seals are also exhibited here. In the next showcase, religious culture from both villages and cities is presented. The objects are complemented by the drawings on the mural opposite the display case. Many holy places were built on these lands from ancient times, in the depths of the woods, in the forests and rocky cliffs of Reut and Nestru rivers. The easiest material for the elevation was wood and stone. By the number of monasteries, Bessarabia occupied the first place in Russia at the end of the 19th century. Monasteries and churches were the main centers of Moldovan culture, monuments and works of art that reflected the artistic thinking, beauty and skill of the craftsmen. Icons, church books, true works of art are displayed in the showcase also for you. The armchair from Dobruja Monastery, decorated with geometric ornaments, and the carpet woven in Tabăra Monastery, one of the important centers in Moldova where carpets of rare beauty were woven and displayed.